Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Hello, hello. Pay attention to me. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Evan Sears. I work for the planning department. Most of you probably know Rob May. Unfortunately, he could not be here today, so you got me instead. Welcome to the basically culmination of multiple years of work. Basically looking at a couple of different districts in the city to rezone and kind of update the zoning from what we had back in the 60s till today. Whoa, can you hear now? Basically, I lost my train of thought. So anyways, what's going to happen here is our lovely consultant team that we have been working with for a while is going to give a basic overview of the new system of zoning on this side. So if everyone that's all spread out wants to come up a little closer, that would be great.
Don't be shy.
That's right. Then after that, we have 4 different stations, so everybody can break up into the neighborhood-specific groups. So we have Montello, Downtown, Campello, and Lovett Brook. And at that point, basically we will discuss the details in a little more depth for the different zones. So again, this first part will be an overview. If you guys have any questions and want to delve in to the details of the specific districts, because each one is going to be a little bit different, just hold off, we'll talk about that at the end. With that, I will turn it over to Emily Innes, who has been helping us spearhead this project for a few years now. So, here you go, take it away.
Good evening, everyone. You can all hear me okay? And you can all see the screen okay, right? You're welcome to come forward. As Evan said, my name is Emily Innes. I'm here with members of my team from Innes Associates, including Paolo Martinez, who will be doing most of the presentation for today. Also, Jimmy Rocha. Jimmy, where did you go? Oh, there you are. Jimmy's over there. We are also here with our colleagues from Over Under, and they have been working with us on the Montello neighborhood, where we are still doing a visioning and neighborhood planning process. Over Under, please raise all your hands. There we go, right there. George is raising his hand. So let me take you through the first part of the presentation, tell you a little bit about the plan process and timeline. I'm going to move up here so I'm not blocking the screen, and also so I'm not hiding behind a board. So you can see the people who have been involved at the higher level. I just do want to call out that the state has been funding some of these projects. So with the 4 neighborhoods that we're working on, 3 of them, Downtown, Lovett, and Campello, we did neighborhood planning processes first. And in the case of Lovett Brook, Mass Development did some of the funding. In the case of Campello and Montello, Mass Housing is doing the Mass Housing Partnership is doing the funding. So we do want to thank the state partners for that. So here is the process of this part of the timeline. Oh, the camera can't see me. I'm sorry, camera. That wasn't very nice of me. I'll go over to this side. Maybe that was by design, actually. Thank you. So we have been kicking off with a set of group meetings. So we originally had the neighborhood plans, as I mentioned. We set off with sort of group meetings for steering group and public meetings, both citywide, the way we are tonight. So we had a citywide workshop in June 13th. How many of you were at that workshop? We got to build buildings. I know there are a couple of faces I recognize. Thank you, thank you. And sort of express what people wanted to see in each of their neighborhoods. We have since had individual steering committees, so meetings with people who have either been part of the previous planning processes or have a specific relationship to the neighborhood, and also public meetings. Our last round of public meetings were for Lovett for Campello and Montello were in late August. And so tonight we're bringing to you, and Paula will go through it, the zoning for the form-based code, which is a type of zoning for all of these districts. Downtown Trout Brook and Campello are moving forward to City Council this fall, so we're interested in what you see, what you recognize, what questions that you have. That helps us prepare for City Council. Lovett Brook is probably a little bit behind in terms of its timing, just because it's an outgrowth of a later plan. And so we're moving along with that. And then Montello, because we're really still in the neighborhood planning process, we wanted to use these meetings as an opportunity to introduce the Montello neighborhood to the type of zoning, but you'll see that we have some options we're still considering. That's still very fluid, so we're not expecting to bring Montello forward just yet because we still want to talk to the neighborhood about that. So all of this is in service of creating a specific type of zoning, updating Brockton's existing zoning ordinance, and we're going to have Paula go through that for you. The key is that this zoning is being tailored on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis. And so I want you to keep that in mind. I know some of you are here for a specific neighborhood, but we welcome your comments on all of the areas. And so with that, Paula, I'm going to turn it over to you. At the end of the presentation, we'll take any general questions, and then any neighborhood-specific questions. We'll all be moving from table to table, so feel free to ask us neighborhood-specific questions. Paula?
Hello, everyone. Nice to see so many people here today. So we explained a bit of this in the previous workshop that we have in the citywide, as Emily was explaining. This is what you have. This is your current zoning, and it's a standard zoning. And we want to change it into something that is a bit more flexible, a bit more dynamic, and that really understands what the relationship is between the building and the street, the building and the adjacent buildings. So it has some changes, and that's why we're here today. We will explain those. So what you can see in the image is the Brockton on the very right area. That's the zoning for the whole Brockton. You see big kind of brushes of paint, not really going very granular into the parcels, but very big chunks. Some commercial vertical, and then a lot of, and some commercial areas, and then pretty much residential all around. So it doesn't have that more granular typology. And so what we want to do is to convert it into something that, I will go back to that, but convert it into something more like this. Here you see a lot of the different colors. The approach is a lot more in-depth, and it's more specific to the lot, what is going on there, and what is going around it. So I will come back here and I will explain a bit the districts. But this is the main goal, that is the big shift. So what we are doing is, first we will start in these 4 sub-areas. As Emily explained, we are in downtown, and Campello are the ones that will go first. And so in all the boards, what you see is mainly specific for Campello and for downtown. But then in your neighborhood, in your tables, you will see the draft that we have for the Lovett Brook as well, and for Montello. And we will do a bit more of a workshop for Montello because of the stage we are in it. But these are mainly the 4 sub-areas that we are working on. This was from the previous workshop. So we had some buildings, some models, and we asked the people to build what they wanted to have so that we could have some reference in order to build the building typologies and the zoning. So what was mainly something asked for from all of the neighborhoods was to have a more walkable neighborhood, was to have a lot of more mixed use. And so we used this buildings and this report that we got from the neighbors, and convert it into our zoning. So what we have are all these districts. We have residential, and these are, the bigger group are by uses. So we have the residential, we have 2 neighborhoods, 2 districts, we have mixed use, we have 3, and we have commercial, we have other 3, and then we have the civic. What does it mean? You're not going to see all of the districts in every of the areas. Downtown has them all because it's the one that has the more density and the more variability. But in Capella, for example, there are some that you won't see, and in Lovettburg, there are some that you won't see, and let's see in Montello that we are still working on it. So what is a district? The district is an area of the city that has very similar characteristics. And so it can be by use, or it can be by height, it can be by the aesthetics of the architecture, it can be by many things, can be a combination of those, and that is what gives us, when we have the area that has these similar characteristics, we call it a district. And we have defined these 9 districts. In each of the districts, in the previous zoning, what you have is some standards and are applied by the district. So it's applied in all the area. What we have now is that every district has a certain amount of building types, and this is the key. And so the standards now do not apply to the district, but will apply to the building types. And that is what you are all seeing in those boards. You have the district, where is it in the plan, and then what are the building types that are applied and permitted in those districts. So that is the change that we need to do. And then we have all the standards, so the lot size, the setbacks, the heights. All those standards are applied by building type. So this is an example of what you would have in the document, in the form-based code, about one of the building types. And it's always the same. We have 3 parts. In one, we explain what it is, what is the definition, images to reference, so that we understand what that building type is. We have the components. Components are all those pieces that can be added into your main building. That is a dormer, arcade, storefront, whatever that can be with that building type. And so we have here what is permitted and what is not. Then we have the second part, which is all the dimension standards. So how big the lot can be, the width, minimum and maximum sometimes, what are the parking setbacks, what are the building setbacks. Those are in the second part. And then the third one is more about the main massing and the openings, etc. And so we have these for each of the building types. So it's a lot more specific. And the thing is that before you only had one set of standards per district, now you have a lot more. So that means that your lot, depending on the sizes, you can really fit a variety of building types, which in the previous one you could not. You could only be either compliant or conforming or non. And so now we added this type of flexibility. So in here, I'm not going to go very in deep about this. You have them all over there, so you can go around and look at them. But this mainly is what we have. The residential district, this is the neighborhood, and so those are the building types that are allowed. You have the urban residential, and these are all the building types that are allowed. We have the mixed district. And what I want you to see is that the difference between the districts sometimes is the type of the building types that are permitted. So you will see here mixed 1, mixed 2, you have a new one, mixed 3, you have another one. And what it also changes, if you look at the pictures, are the same things, are residential, mixed-use building, commercial, but when we go to another district, the height goes higher. And so we see also the change, not only in the building type, but also on the dimensions of those building types, so that are different from one district to another. We have commercial. This commercial core, it's really, mainly we have it in downtown, because it's the highest dense commercial. So we are going to talk about a lot higher buildings than, for example, the business commercial, where here we have more of the box building and the strip mall typology, or the freestanding commercial, the pad type of building. So you can see really the big difference between this type of district and the commercial core. There are a lot of differences. And then we have the industrial. And sometimes you can see the same building type, but the standards and the look, it really changes. So we can have a lab building, but it's completely different if it's in the downtown, because the standards are going to be, the maximum width, for example, is going to be limited, while in the lab building in the industrial can be a bigger building because it's more suited for that area. So these building types are also adapted to where they are. There are two new things that we add into this form-based code. One is going to be the green score, and the other one is going to be the incentive zoning. And so the green score is mainly an environmental standard, and what it touches is two topics, is functional landscape and stormwater. And so what we have is a menu of elements that, depending on what is your building type, your space, your development, you can use one of several of these elements, and you can, doing an easy calculation, you can get into a minimum score. And that score is going to be different depending on the district that you are. These are only going to be applied to developments that actually make an impact in the city and in their sustainability. And so it won't be applied to residential neighborhoods. So here, for example, is all the list of elements, and then you have a Excel sheet and a worksheet that you can really put your areas, and it will come with a score at the end. So we try to make it as simple and as flexible as possible, but always keeping in mind that sustainability factor. And then incentive zoning. So this is a voluntary program that developers can choose to do. And this, what it does is, it's a negotiation between the city or the neighborhood and the developers. And that is, we give you more height to build if you give something back to the community. And so what we can have is, for example, we have the districts in the table on the right. We have the districts, we have a base height, and that is, you don't have to do anything, this is by right, you can get this height. If you do something for the community, then you can go to the maximum height. And so, because we want to maintain the public and to make it more walkable, this is a perfect way of doing it. And so we can have many public benefits, from affordable housing, some kind of environmental resilience, to community amenities that will be, if they are in the lot of the development, they will be maintained by the developer, not by the city. And then public realms improvements. So if they are in the city property, they will be maintained by the city. And this, for example, can be some of the public benefits. Some of them, because we have, all these areas have the brook, several brooks, the city of brooks. We want to restore, and it will be great to restore some of them. This is a way to do it. So what is the process? What are the next steps? So this document will be sent to the city council. They will review it. They will send it to the planning board. It will come back to the city council. Oh, it will go through the ordinance and then to city council, and it should be good to go. If you want to add more to the process, feel very welcome.
So this is a lot at once. We wanted to make sure that you had the opportunity to see the high level, to understand the relationship between the buildings and the districts, Obviously, you'll see by the names of the buildings that there are certain uses that go into them, right? A 3-unit building is 3 residential units, so that gives you a clue. There is for those of you who are more used to seeing the table of uses, there is, of course, a table of uses, but we wanted to make sure that you had an introduction. Obviously, as this moves to City Council, it becomes a public document and everybody will have a chance to read the whole thing. But I can say, even with us working on it and reviewing it, it's a big document to absorb at once. So this is really an introduction to the final document. We will in a moment, after we take some general questions, invite you to walk up and down, really look at the districts and their positions within the downtown in Campello, see which buildings are allowed there, and then we have a welcome to each neighborhood. There's 4 rows, one for each neighborhood, where we will wander around and you can really ask questions about that. Does anybody have any general questions about the code or the process at this point versus neighborhood questions, which we'll answer at the table? Yes. It doesn't have to be a question. Welcome to have statements, yes. Would you like the mic to come on over?
I'm sort of torn here. My name's Jed, so you know me. I did want to make a sort of very broad global statement about the politics at work here, because I think we need to face those head on. Basically, people are afraid of change. We can get into all those details. But I'm also, there's a specific point here about the incentives. I really strongly feel that 3 bedrooms and up need to be added to the incentives, and ownership units need to be added to the incentives. Folks who go to the ZBA and planning meetings, you might have heard me. I come to many of those meetings, and I either oppose projects or I support them on the basis of basically much of what's being proposed downtown at Montello and Campello are all 2-bedroom and under rentals. I think we have this fantasy that we're going to have these urban professionals without any kids and they're going to save downtown. Brockton Beer closes on the 28th. That's obviously not the case. So I think we need to have families, we need to have other people. My family itself, we need more than a 2-bedroom, right? I don't have kids in the Brockton schools. So I would strongly hope that, and we know the developers are going to push back and say, hey, I can make more money by having more studios at once, right? You look at 90 Center Street, it's mostly studios at once, right? The old England building. So, again, I would propose that if we could have some incentives, that way we can answer the developer's question when they say, oh, well, I can't afford it. Well, okay, we're gonna give you something in return if you have ownership, or if you do 3 bedrooms or not, God forbid a 4-bedroom. There's some 3 bedrooms that have been proposed downtown, like the Marion development, for example, across the street. Not a single 4-bedroom that I can think of. So that was my specific point. Thank you.
So those are great ideas. So 3-bedroom units, yeah?
I just wanted to follow up.
Oh, sure, come on.
I don't need a, well,
You might, there's.
I can't hear you, need the mic. Need the mic.
exactly what he was thinking. I was sharing some of the same thought process because we are linked mentally. How are we, the community, going to see these thoughts and changes carried through? Will part of what you're doing have that in the process, when it comes before the city council, that the community has a say-so in all of this that's going to be, and especially the bedrooms, the 3, the 4, because with the concept of nothing being really downtown after the closing of burgers and beers, then we really need to make it accessible in a reality-based plan for those families wanting to come into Brockton. And it can't be just as the vision of some people have had, that 1 and 2 bedrooms are the ideal situation. And just my added piece of I think it was Andy Warhol who said 15 minutes well, I think I'm like going into 4 minutes now. The building that was being built downtown, maybe a different vision, where all that space is, could have been a big park. Maybe part of it a skateboard park for the youth, and maybe the other part of it, a park with picnic tables and benches, since we have some population that works downtown. That maybe, but I guess that's all out the window now, because that maybe should have been talked about. And I guess what I'm going is that if the community is not allowed to have a say-so at these meetings, and them being just moved forward, then Brockton isn't going to be the vision that a lot of us have for Brockton, a community-based place where families can come and grow and live, and it's not just the downtown vision of what is being proposed and being put forth at this time. I appreciate you opening the door.
So first of all, thank you for those incentive ideas. I would suggest two things. One, as you look at these, if you have additional ideas for incentives or additional ideas for amenities, let us know. The other thing is this does have to go to the planning, so it goes to City Council, it's referred to Planning Board, as Pella said, referred to the Ordinance Committee. We have already talked about some things that as we're looking at the draft, you know, you get a draft, you start to read it through, you're like, oh, we've got a couple of changes. We think that what we will do is speak with the Planning Board and say, hey, there's some changes that we would recommend that you consider for sending to City Council. So if you have some thoughts that you think should make it into the zoning, this is a great time to tell us, because we can add that to the list of things that we're looking at. So ownership, 3 or 4 bedrooms as incentives, that's a great idea. We did talk about the possibility of adding public parks or public plazas as an incentive. I think the idea is how much active use, which would be a skateboard park or children's playground or something like that. That would be a great thing to hear. The other thing is with this code, and you'll see when you see the full document, is that there are special discussions for each of the neighborhoods. And so we can modify the uses by neighborhood. We can modify the desired amenities by neighborhood. So as you look at these neighborhoods, if you have thoughts on what those should be, that would be extremely helpful for us to hear at the time. So thank you both for opening that door. I appreciate that. Any other questions? Paula, did you have anything to add? No? Any other questions, comments?
I just want to say.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. I represent the Montello Business Association, and you know, I've been on the steering committee since it started. It's got a good vision, but I did bring up some things because there's a lot of housing on this development, and we have to think about fire, safety, police, hospitals, cost, schools. We had a deficit in the school department, very sufficient. So we have to think of those things too when we add people. And I don't mind adding people, but let's get some tax revenue out of this. All right, that's very important. And as far as the parks and creating all the things, I take care of one of the oldest parks down here. It's the Snow Clock, and I clean it every day. You'll see me down here at 6:30. So when someone develops something beautiful, we have to make sure there's someone to maintain it. Sometimes our municipalities don't maintain the parks. And they get a lot on their hand anyhow. We spend millions of dollars. We just did a Cosgrove pool for kids and the youth this year, and it was successful, but it's a lot of money. So we also think, where are we going to get the money? And that's my question.
Yeah, and that's a great point. So one of the things that you'll see as you look at this is this, of course, is bringing forth residential, mixed use, and commercial and industrial all at the same time. So, you know, looking at the potential for an increase in the tax base across a number of different, what the real estate industry would call asset classes, right? And so that's something to think about, is that the overall impact of all of this could have a positive impact on the tax base. And I love what you said about the maintenance. It's something that Paula and I talked about, and I don't know if you saw on that slide, but when it talked about the benefits and the incentive, it was clearly stated what was going to be a private provision of benefit, but also maintenance of benefit. And actually, our discussion was to schedule, beautiful, I'm hiding it now. You can see the community amenities accessible for the public, privately maintained. We did think about the point system in terms of how much we were asking for that ongoing maintenance. And then there are some things that would be public, they would be supporting with funds and publicly maintained. And we heard you when you were talking about that, so we appreciate it. We baked that into that. Yes, come on over. Yeah, just talking to the mic.
I have a question because I know that you guys have a lot of unused places, like, or buildings that you guys are taking down. So I wanted to know if you guys have a plan for the youth that could help us in Brockton itself, because as me speaking, me being a part of the youth, there aren't that many places where we can go where kids can just be kids and like we don't have to worry about stuff. So yeah.
Thank you. I think that's a great point. I can't, of course, answer to what the city's doing now because consultant. But if you tell us the type of places that would be comfortable spaces for you to be in, are you looking for indoor? Are you looking for outdoor? Are you looking for something that's programmed with activities? Are you looking for something where you just hang out? That would be really useful information. So thank you very much for bringing that up. Any other comments, questions? Because yes, come on over.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jeff Thompson, Brockton's Ward 5 City Councilor. Just want to, thank the consultants for putting this together and the hard work over the last few years to put together a code that's really going to transform Brockton in the way that, right now our code is 40 years old, 50 years old. It's for a different Brockton. And so what we need to do is modernize the way, we do our zoning in our city. And the way that this was explained, I've been talking with Rob about it, but you had a great way of explaining it. And it's, we're going to look at the size, we're going to look at the shape, we're going to look at the use. And I just think this is going to be really good for our city. It's, we want to do as many things by right, so that not everybody has to go before the zoning board to really accomplish anything in the city. And so this is going to streamline the way we do business in Brockton, and and it's not a finished product. George, this is we've had multiple meetings, but this is going to go to ordinance. It's going to go to planning. The discussion is going to continue, whether it be the incentives or the locations, the uses. We still got to see how everything's defined. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do. How do we even turn this into an ordinance? That's one thing I'm learning now, is we've got to break it all down and have it coded throughout our ordinance. So there's still a lot of work to do, but we're at the end of a very long process. I think it was a fruitful process that's great for Brockton, and I'm glad we're all part of it. So please, if you have any questions, ask them. We want to make this the best product possible for our city. So thank you everyone for being here.
So Pella, I'm going to turn the last word over to you before we break into our groups.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of, this is a big part, this incentive zoning. It's a big part of what we want to achieve in more of the, what can we give back to the community. So we really want and appreciate all your, because these are suggestions that we had in other public meetings, what they wanted to see. A lot of the concerns were the maintenance of those areas. So sometimes they were not choosing some things before because they thought, well, nobody's going to maintain them. So that's why we did this splitting on city maintained or developer maintained. And I love the new suggestions that we can have. Please bring it in. The young people over there, please feel very welcome to propose anything, because then we can put it in, and other suggestions over there that were absolutely great. So now we invite you to look at all the boards that we have, and you can go into your neighborhoods. We have some for Campbell and downtown, whatever you want to write, if it's the district, if you prefer other type of bill, just to see what is there, and if you agree or not, that will be super helpful for us to see and do those last changes. And for Lovett Brook, we're still going with the process, so whatever you can give us as an input, super welcome. And for Montello, as Emily said before, we're still working on the plan, so we have some 2 choices. You can go over them and tell us which one do you prefer, and you can also make your own, so we can also take that into consideration. For the rest, any comment or anything, feel free to put it in the post-it and just leave it on the map so we can take it with us. And thank you very much.